Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be looking at international migration in the Caribbean. Migration may be defined as a situation in which people relocate from their homes to live in another place, either on a short-term or a long-term basis. Now, if you watched my last video on the consequences of urban growth in the Caribbean, you would have learned that in the Caribbean, as well as other places, people migrate from rural areas to live in the cities in an effort to improve their lives. Thus, we can talk about in-migration and out-migration. So in the case of Jamaica, for example, when rural residents move into Kingston, we use the term in-migration. In-migration may be defined as the process of people moving into a new area in their country to live there permanently. On the other hand, when people move from their homes in the rural areas, we use the term out-migration. So, out-migration may be defined as a process of people moving out of an area within their own country to move to another area in their country. People also migrate from their country to live in another country. In this case, we will use the terms immigration and emigration. Emigration is defined from the point of view of the departure. So, when we think emigrate, we think of the word exit. Emigration may be defined as a process of leaving one's country in order to settle in another country. On the other hand, immigration is defined from the point of view of the destination. When you think of the term immigration, think to come inside. All right, so think inside. Immigration is a process of moving into or coming to live in a country. Caribbean people may migrate from one Caribbean country to another Caribbean country. This is regional migration. Caribbean territories such as Cayman, Turks and Caicos, and Aruba generally experience labor shortages, so people from other Caribbean territories seek employment in those countries. People also go to Caribbean territories such as Barbados, Bahamas, and Trinidad and Tobago to seek employment opportunities. Many people, on the other hand, from Haiti and Dominican Republic, Guyana, as well as Jamaica, migrate to other Caribbean territories. Now, the Cayman Islands is an example of a Caribbean territory with a high rate of immigration. A relatively small proportion of the population of Cayman was born there. Economic growth, especially in tourism and financial services, has resulted in increased employment opportunities. This has attracted immigrants to the country. The construction industry is a big employer of foreign labor. The largest source of migrants to Cayman has been Jamaica. Almost one-fifth of the total population of Cayman was actually born in Jamaica. Migration into the Cayman Islands is mainly controlled by a system of work permits. Population increase in Cayman has resulted in deforestation as a result of the land being cleared for settlement. One example of a Caribbean territory with a high rate of emigration is Jamaica. The term diaspora means the spread of people around the world. The number of Jamaicans living abroad, or the Jamaican diaspora, is about the same as the people presently living in the country. Jamaicans mainly migrate in search of better employment. Though migration has granted Jamaica the benefits of increased tourist arrivals and increased remittances, many children are left behind and families have been separated in the process. Caribbean people also migrate to countries outside of the region. This is called international migration. From most Caribbean countries, there is a flow of international migrants to the USA, Canada, and Britain. To control migration, most receiving countries impose restrictions on would-be migrants, with preference given to those who are skilled, healthy, those who do not have a criminal record or already have family members overseas. Some of the barriers to immigration include high cost of travel, legal restrictions, language and cultural barriers. Some Caribbean territories have less barriers than others. So, for example, there are no restrictions on migration from Puerto Rico to the USA or to the EU from British, French, or Netherlands territories in the Caribbean. Now, there are two sets of factors which control international migration. These are push factors and pull factors. Push factors are the negative features of a country push factors are the negative features of a country that cause a person to desire to leave that country. Pull factors are the positive features of a country that attract people from another country to it. Some people migrate because their lives are threatened in one way or the other, so they are forced to leave their country. This is known as involuntary migration. Migration from Montserrat is an example of involuntary migration resulting from natural disaster. Due to volcanic eruption, the population of Montserrat fell from 10,600 in 1995 to 2,700 in 1998. The push factors were very strong. People lost their homes and jobs. The usual barriers to migration were lowered in Britain as well as USA, Canada, and other Caribbean countries. After 1999, there was a slow return flow. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and have suffered from high unemployment, extreme poverty, and political instability. This has led to civil unrest. As such, many Haitians have fled the country in an effort to escape the hardships. Their government will not stop them from leaving, but many countries put strong restrictions and barriers to their entry. In Cuba, citizens have jobs, food, clothing, housing, education, and healthcare. But citizens still feel they are not free to express their own opinions and run their own lives. It is for this reason that many Cubans seek to migrate to other countries where they believe they will be better able to exercise their human rights. Their government often makes it difficult for Cubans to leave the country, however. Cubans have, however, received special treatment under U.S. immigration law. Migration may also be voluntary. Voluntary migration is where people migrate for personal reasons and not because of any threat to their lives. Many people leave Caribbean countries due to a desire for employment opportunities. In some cases, people leave because they have no jobs, while in other cases, the jobs they have are low paying. For some persons, there is little or no job available in their home country in the area in which they have studied. Some people who have a certain type of business may not have a large enough market in their home country and therefore move to other countries to set up their business. People also leave Caribbean countries with the hope of reuniting with loved ones who have gone on before. Also, in an age where social media helps to link people from various countries, people also migrate to unite with the people they have met through the internet. Many students move from one country to another in order to continue their education. Now, let us look at some of the ways Caribbean territories benefit from migration. As people leave the country, there is less population pressure. With less people in the country, there is less pressure on the available resources. For example, when one person migrates, the job they had previously can now be made available to another person. When persons in top positions migrate, other persons may be promoted with increased income and other benefits. People who have migrated often visit their home country during the holidays as tourists. At such time, they bring much needed foreign exchange in the country. Many migrants, after they have established themselves abroad, are very patriotic and determined to give back to their country of birth. Many therefore give donations to various charities. Other migrants set up businesses in their home country that help to provide employment and contribute to the gross domestic product of the country. Remittances refer to money sent back home from people working abroad. Remittances play a central role in the lives of many families in the Caribbean. Remittances are transmitted through the formal channels such as banks, money transfer companies, and cambios, or informal channels such as hand delivery by the remitter, delivery by a friend or relative, and even the postal mail service. Remittances help to offset the worst for the poorest and enable recipients to be able to live a better life. It provides the country with liquidity so that the exchange rate will not get out of control. Remittances therefore help to support and boost national economies and provide governments in almost all of the region with additional foreign exchange. Now, though there are benefits that are gained through migration, there are also problems that result from migration. Let us look at some of these. Remittances can create a culture of dependency in the receiving country. It may lower the labor force participation. When some people have another source of funds, they may not take their jobs seriously and may not turn up for work on some days. This leaves the work burden on other employees. Generally, remittances have the ability to slow down production in the country, which in turn may slow economic growth. Another problem is the loss of skilled labor force or brain drain. As many young and skilled university graduates are discouraged by the lack of employment opportunities in their home countries, they often move to countries where they can obtain the employment that they need. Thus, the country is deprived of the much needed human resource. The net loss of educated people impacts the economy by maintaining the average qualification level low. The departure of qualified people impedes any kind of training and knowledge sharing for lower skilled workers within the country. This represents an indirect loss as governments such as Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados, for instance, have invested considerable amounts of money in educating students. It also represents a tax loss for the origin countries that lose the population that is expected to contribute to it. And then there is also the problem of family separation. As people seek opportunities abroad, it is not the common case where the whole family moves at the same time. As such, many families are split apart in the process. In some cases, marriages are destroyed as people remarried to get their stay in the new country. Due to separation of families, the children are often the most affected members of the family. In many cases, the children are left with relatives who sometimes do not take good care of them the way their parents would. The psychosocial well-being of children is greatly impacted by feelings of abandonment, low self-esteem, anger, depression, material obsession, and violence. In terms of academic performance, increased responsibilities at home, lack of affordability, motivation, and parental support can greatly impact the child's educational functioning. Children left behind are at a high risk and are vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. Then there is the problem of negative impacts on the migrant children. Some migrant children are affected by poor access to health and education, especially when they are undocumented. Birth registration could also form an obstacle. Some migrant children are also at high risk and vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. Social problems which affect Caribbean countries. Let me repeat. A social problem which affects some Caribbean countries is the return of migrants as deportees. These are people who have been sent back to their home after committing some crimes in the countries to which they migrated. This is a problem because of the stigma that is attached to them and which makes it difficult for them to be reintegrated into the society. Now, let's look at some of the measures which have been put in place to control some of the problems related to migration. The Jamaican government has used bonding to secure the services of those whose education the government helped to finance, either in the country or abroad. This means that new doctors, nurses, teachers, or other professionals who accept financial assistance from the government cannot accept employment outside of Jamaica until their bonding period ends. Bonding has been fairly successful. However, a significant proportion of those studying abroad have remained in the countries in which they studied. Many have simply repaid their bonds to avoid returning to the country. The Jamaican government has also undertaken a number of initiatives to strengthen the linkages between the country and the diaspora, and to enhance the diaspora's contribution to national development. This has been spearheaded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Officers operate in main destination countries to assist the diaspora in various ways, including settling or resettling migrants, promoting rights, and helping the sick and those imprisoned abroad. Then there are programs to encourage the return of migrants. Two programs were introduced in the early 1990s to encourage and facilitate the return of Jamaican migrants, whether on a temporary or permanent basis. Between 1994 and 1998, the International Organization for Migration funded a Return of Talent program to offer several types of incentives, including allowances, insurance, and salary subsidies to highly qualified professionals to fill vacant positions in the public sector. Individuals who participated in the program were expected to remain a minimum of 2 years so that they could transfer their knowledge and skills to their colleagues. The Returning Residents Program, which began in 1993 and is still in operation, seeks to help Jamaican nationals return by providing a range of information on jobs and investment opportunities. Services such as the maintenance of skills bank and linkages with prospective employers in Jamaica have also been provided. Then there are policies supporting those migrants who actually return. Now, migrants who return to Jamaica may do so voluntarily or involuntarily. Those who return involuntarily are usually deportees who have been sent back for civil as well as criminal offenses committed abroad. Policymakers are responsible for helping these migrants, returning migrants, to be reintegrated into the society. The government considers voluntary return migrants as positive contributors because they are generally regarded as having gained skills and assets abroad that they bring back to the country. Many nurses and other health workers have migrated abroad, leaving a gap in the medical sector. To rebuild the sector, Jamaica developed a bilateral agreement with Cuban authorities. Cuba has a surplus of healthcare workers, so they have been able to afford to send some of their workers to help out in the medical field. To address the problem of people migrating due to natural hazards, post-hazard comprehensive policies can be developed in line with international standards and agendas on protection and displaced, for internally displaced people. This will limit the negative impacts of forced migration. This is where I stop for now. I hope that you benefited from this video. Don't forget to like it, to share it with someone who could benefit. And if you have not subscribed already, definitely subscribe.